intentionality is very, very important when it comes to keeping romance going in our marriages. Some time ago, I did a video about the 5 love languages by Gary Chapman that you need to find out from your spouse some of the things that you can do to make him or her feel loved. Don't just think it. Don't just assume that when I do this, my husband will feel loved. When I do this, my wife will feel loved. Find out from him or her. My dear, what are some of the things that you want me to do? What are some of the things that you love when I inculcate those habits in our marriages, or those behavior or attitude in our marriages, so that we can keep our romance going? You know, you want to continually lust after your husband or lust after your wife. And there are so many things that you can do to express your love. One way of expressing your love is that when you tell your husband or your wife that I love you, if your husband, let me give this example. If your husband comes to you and say, my dear, I love you, don't just jump in and say, I love you too. No. Why didn't you go to him and say the same thing? But he was the one who came to you and said, I love you. So what you have to do is to find out from him, why do you love me? So that he can express himself. Give him the opportunity to express himself. So that maybe he will say that, well, I love you because of the way you take care of me. I love you because of what you do in this house, the way you take care of the kids. Allow your husband to express himself. If your wife comes to you and say, I love you, don't just jump in and say, oh, I love you too. Because she was the one who came to you. It means that she was thinking about something. It means that there was something that she was thinking, she was mulling over. There was something that she was considering. That is why she came to you and said, my dear, I love you. So you have to dig deep. Okay, you have to go deeper and deeper and find out why she loves you, so that you will give her the opportunity to express herself. And then she will say that I love you because of this. I love you because of the way you take care of me. I love the way you treat me. I love the way you respect me. I love the way you value me. So that your wife can express herself. And then maybe after the conversation, okay, I mean, that conversation, that intensive conversation will keep the romance going, because you are getting to know her mind or his mind. You want to know what is in his or her heart. Okay, if you want to know somebody intimately, you have to communicate and you have to be intentional. You have to find out more. So don't just jump on or jump in and say, oh, I love you too, and then the conversation will just end. No, you have to keep it going. You have to keep it going. And one way of doing so, or one way of doing that, is saying, my dear, I just want you to express yourself. Why do you love me? What are some of the things that I do that make you feel loved, you know? And then your wife or your husband will express him or herself, so that you can get into his or her mind, get into his or her heart, and it will help. It's important and critical that we keep the romance in our marriages going, so that you will continually lust after your wife, lust after your husband. Because if you are not intentional, you have been living with your husband or your wife for 15 years, for 20 years, for 30 years. I mean, you know everything about him or her. I mean, you have seen his or her strength and his or her weaknesses. But if you are intentional that I want us to go on a date, maybe once in a while, my dear, I don't want you to prepare any supper. Let's go out there and eat something. Once in a while, let's allow somebody to take care of the kids, so that we can have time together. Once in a while, you go on a trip together, the two of you, okay, go on vacation. Okay, I know it costs money, but you can find a place where it doesn't cost much. And then sometimes some ladies, when you buy them a chocolate, they just love it. When you say words of affirmation, like when you encourage them, and then you tell her, you are beautiful. You are beautiful. I thank God for your life. I'm grateful that God gave you to me. You know, your husband, you need to be intentional, my dear. I love the way you are training our kids. You are a mentor. You are a good father. You are the priest. We appreciate you. We love you. Express your love. Let your wife or your husband feel valued. Don't just let things be like that. Don't focus on his or her weaknesses. You know, there are some spouses, they are always focusing on their spouse's weaknesses. Whether you like it or not, we all have our temperament level, and the temperament that we have, our inborn trait, our temperament. We have the good ones and we have the bad ones. But it depends on what you focus on. You can decide to focus on the person's strength and master his strength so that it will encourage him or her to do better. Or you can decide to focus on his or her weaknesses. We all have weaknesses and we all have strength. So in marriages, you have to be intentional. I know that this one, you don't do it right, but I know that you do this one right. So I will focus on it and I will applaud you. I will commend you, okay? And I will encourage you to do better. So my dear, let's be romantic in our marriages. And as I said, one way of doing so is that when your spouse comes to you and expresses him or herself, and maybe the person said, I love you, allow him or her to just bring everything out. Let him or her tell you the reason why he loves you or she loves you, so that you can keep the romance going. Let's be intentional in our marriages. If you are intentional, if you go on adventure, you know, your husband or your wife, it's like somebody, you are on a journey, you want to find out more, okay? Adventure, okay? So be adventurous, okay? Don't allow your marriage to be stale. Find out more about him or her, what he or she is thinking, what is in his or her heart. Dig deep, go deeper. You know, when you do that, when you are able to express yourself, when you are able to be open-minded in your marriage, it helps both of you to be very, very intimate, because I know how you feel. I know your fears. I know your strength. I know your weaknesses. I know what makes you tick. I know what bothers you. Okay? Allow him or her to express everything. When you allow people to express themselves without paying a price for it, without paying what? A price for it. That when I express myself, then you are mad. Then you are angry because I decided to express myself. No, don't let your spouse pay a price because he or she decided to express him or herself. Let him be open and tell you everything that he or she feels, so that you can go deeper and deeper into his or her mind or his or her heart. And you will find ways of doing something about it to help him or her to be better and to applaud him, so that the romance, okay, will keep on going and it will be intense, and intimacy will be very, very intense in the marriage.